Welcome, chosen ones. They dared to pilfer from destiny itself, believing they could escape unscathed. Imagine someone reaching into the core of your being, seizing what was intrinsically yours and smirking as if it were an ordinary occurrence. But brace yourselves for a chilling revelation. A staggering 82% of financial fraud and inheritance theft cases unravel within the first year when whispers from within begin to surface. In other words, what seems eternally buried possesses an uncanny ability to resurface, often accompanied by witnesses you least anticipate. Now envision this scenario: the very individuals who gloated, conspired, and prematurely counted your inheritance as their own are now jolted awake at ungodly hours, drenched in sweat, frantically scrolling through messages, consumed by the paranoia of who will expose them next. That's the sound of justice knocking with unwavering resolve, its spotlight so blindingly intense that it obliterates their carefully constructed facade of lies. And here's the electrifying twist: you are not merely a spectator to this unfolding drama. You are the protagonist, the very fulcrum upon which this epic tale pivots. Each lie they meticulously planted, every secret they considered impenetrable, is now disintegrating in real time, revealing the stark truth beneath. The whistleblower isn't just a symbol of courage. They are the linchpin, the domino that triggers the catastrophic collapse of an empire built upon your stolen birthright. So prepare yourself, because what they plundered was far more than mere money. It was your legacy, your birthright, and now the very individuals who attempted to play puppet master over your life are about to receive a harsh, unforgettable lesson in the cosmic theater of justice. The universe possesses an unyielding memory. It simply bides its time, and yes, sometimes it delights in subtly mocking their hubris while setting the stage for their downfall. This is not a tale of petty vengeance. It is a narrative of inevitable justice, explosive revelations, and the unstoppable return of what is rightfully and intrinsically yours. First, their panic is your victory anthem. Their panic is not arbitrary. It's a resonating signal of truth breaking through the surface. When individuals resort to theft, manipulation, or usurpation, they carry an invisible, ever-present burden: the weight of their transgression. Regardless of the elaborate defenses they construct, the intricate lies they weave, or the people they attempt to silence through bribery, guilt inevitably finds a way to permeate the cracks. And now, as the whistleblower fearlessly steps forward, illuminating the stolen inheritance, that intangible weight becomes undeniably visible. Each anxious phone call they make, every sleepless night they endure, every hurried explanation they stammer is a palpable manifestation of the mounting pressure they face. This stress transcends mere discomfort. It's the reverberating echo of their crime finally catching up with them. Their anxieties extend beyond mere reputational damage. They are gripped by the existential dread of losing control over the elaborate web of deceit they've meticulously crafted. Their panic reveals vulnerabilities far deeper than fear. It exposes the fissures in their once impenetrable armor. Their anxiety is a direct reflection of the shifting power dynamics. They once held the upper hand, manipulating information and orchestrating outcomes from behind the scenes. But with the emergence of truth, that power abruptly dissipates. What they believed to be untouchable is suddenly exposed and vulnerable. The panic you witness is concrete evidence that the tide has turned. It's undeniable proof that their meticulously crafted schemes are unraveling in real time. It's a reaction that validates your position, your inherent rights, and your undeniable legitimacy. They are consumed by anxiety because they are beginning to grasp, perhaps for the first time, that they are no longer the masters of their destiny. That's the defining essence of this pivotal moment. Their panic transcends mere emotional turmoil. It's a factual acknowledgement. The exposure of your stolen inheritance ignites a chain of events that spiral beyond their control, and their dread serves as irrefutable proof that the truth is an unstoppable force. The irony is both profound and brutal. They brazenly assumed their deception could endure indefinitely. They confidently believed their ill-gotten advantage was permanent. Now their panic serves as both undeniable evidence and a perverse form of entertainment, revealing just how fragile their position was all along. They are unequivocally losing, and deep down they are acutely aware of it. Their stress is the universe's way of unequivocally confirming that justice isn't merely on its way. It is already unfolding with relentless force. Every frantic move, every hurried lie, every agonizing sleepless hour only serves to accelerate their inevitable reckoning. Their panic is not merely an emotional response. It's a resounding confirmation that what intrinsically belongs to you is inexorably returning. Their fear is irrefutable evidence that stolen goods cannot remain stolen forever, and that the moment of truth is not only approaching, it is now unavoidable. Second, secrets leak. Lies dissipate. Secrets possess an inherent inability to remain buried indefinitely, and lies are destined to crumble under the weight of truth. What they considered to be meticulously concealed, the theft of your inheritance, the manipulative tactics employed, the falsified records they generated, was never as undetectable as they naively believed. Every action they undertook left behind a tangible trail, whether in the form of incriminating emails, traceable bank transfers, careless remarks made in casual conversations, or simple avoidable mistakes. These are the breadcrumbs that form a clear path leading directly back to them, and the whistleblower serves as the unwavering individual who is finally following that trail with unwavering focus and clear vision. The exposure is not a random act of courage. It is the inevitable consequence of a corrupt system fundamentally built on deception. Truth possesses an uncanny ability to find someone willing to articulate it, and the more vehemently they attempt to suppress it, the more resoundingly it will be proclaimed. What they initially perceived as their greatest advantage, their carefully guarded secret leverage, has now transformed into their most significant weakness. Every clandestine transaction, every calculated attempt to manipulate outcomes, every lie told to conceal a previous lie now exists in plain sight, accessible to anyone willing to confront it head-on. The whistleblower is not the creator of the problem. They are merely the catalyst that reveals its pre-existing presence. What's truly astonishing is that the documents, the recordings, the irrefutable evidence, and the subtle inconsistencies they so readily dismissed are now speaking with a deafening volume that drowns out any attempt at denial. Even those who were previously too intimidated or too driven by greed to take action are now becoming reluctant witnesses to the unfolding truth. The secrecy upon which they relied so heavily collapses the instant someone resolutely refuses to remain silent. The impact is both immediate and deeply psychological. They are being relentlessly watched, meticulously analyzed, and exposed in ways they never remotely imagined. Their carefully constructed comfort zones are shattered beyond repair, and the stress of exposure intensifies because the truth possesses an objective and unyielding nature. It cannot be negotiated, ignored, or indefinitely suppressed. Every attempt to conceal the theft only serves to provide further proof of its occurrence. Every panic-driven move they make becomes an integral part of the incriminating pattern that exposes them even further. The whistleblower not only reveals the crime itself, they illuminate the intricate system of lies, the network of complicity, and the elaborate methods they employed to manipulate reality itself. At its core, this is a moment of profound reckoning. The stolen inheritance represented far more than mere monetary gain. It was a symbol of control dominance and an assumption of unchallenged impunity. The exposure forces them to confront not only their deplorable actions, but also the inevitability of facing the consequences. Secrets do not leak because people are weak. They leak because truth is an unrelenting force. And in this case, the truth has found its voice, its witness, and its perfect timing. A confluence that no amount of scheming or manipulation can possibly resist. Their carefully constructed illusion is unraveling with alarming speed, and the whistleblower is merely the initial spark that ignited the inevitable conflagration. The true fire is the unwavering presence of truth asserting its rightful place, and nothing they do now can extinguish it. Third, blinded by cupidity. Their insatiable greed was precisely the force that blinded them to the ramifications of their actions. They arrogantly assumed that appropriating what was not rightfully theirs could be achieved without any adverse consequences, that their wealth and influence would somehow shield them from the natural repercussions of stealing from someone else's life. They desperately clung to the self-serving delusion that their clever planning, well-placed connections, and intimidating tactics were sufficient to secure their coveted prize. However, greed is never a silent, passive force. It relentlessly grows, insatiably consumes, and severely impairs judgment. Every decision they made while relentlessly pursuing what was never theirs was invariably guided by a warped and distorted sense of entitlement. They flagrantly disregarded the inherent risks involved, grossly underestimated the people around them, and convinced themselves that they were untouchable and beyond reproach. That very overconfidence born from their unbridled, selfish desires is precisely what has led them down the path to their impending downfall. The irony is both stark and brutal. The very hunger that drove them to steal from you is now the primary source of their paralyzing fear. They meticulously constructed their schemes believing they were firmly in control. But control is ultimately an illusion when your actions are fundamentally rooted in selfishness and a callous disregard for the truth. Greed does not merely motivate people to steal. It renders them careless, arrogant, and disturbingly predictable. Every corner they cut, every false signature they forged, every attempt they made to manipulate witnesses became another blatant marker on a trail leading inexorably back to them. They foolishly believed that the shadows provided them with adequate protection. But the more vigorously they attempted to conceal their actions, the more glaringly obvious their patterns became. Their current state of panic is a direct result of the same insatiable desire that once emboldened them to commit their transgressions. Greed also inherently distorts perspective. They measured success solely by the accumulation of wealth, rather than the attainment of justice, prioritizing personal advantage over fairness and equity. This profound distortion rendered them oblivious to the warning signs that surrounded them, blinding them to the inevitability of their eventual exposure. They operated under the delusion that their theft could exist without any repercussions because their vision was clouded by the allure of immediate gratification. Every choice they made was calculated to benefit themselves at the expense of what was morally right. And each selfish maneuver has now amplified the severity of the consequences they are poised to face. What they naively believed to be clever manipulation is now irrefutable evidence of their wrongdoing, and their abject stress is a clear indication that they recognize this truth even if they realize it's too late to avert the impending disaster. Ultimately, their greed was never merely a moral failing. It was also a significant strategic weakness. It dictated their every move, created predictable patterns in their behavior, and ensured that anyone paying close attention would inevitably take notice of their transgressions. It virtually guaranteed their eventual exposure. What they mistakenly perceived as unshakable security ultimately became their greatest vulnerability. The irony is incredibly sharp. Their consuming desire to possess what was not rightfully theirs is precisely what is now forcing them to helplessly watch as it returns to the person they so callously attempted to steal from. Greed promised them unparalleled wealth and absolute control, but it has instead delivered crippling anxiety, paralyzing fear, and eventual inevitable defeat. Their panic is not merely an emotional response. It is undeniable proof that desire devoid of integrity will always ultimately backfire. Fourth, the whistleblower catalyst. Not hero. The whistleblower should not be regarded as the hero of this story. They are in fact the catalyst. While their actions are undeniably significant, they represent merely the starting point of a process that was inherently inevitable from the outset. Justice possesses its own inherent momentum, and no amount of manipulation, intimidation, or bribery can ultimately halt its progress once the truth has begun to emerge into the light. The whistleblower's courage and action serve merely as the spark that ignites a fire that was already lying dormant, waiting to be kindled. Every lie that was told, every asset that was stolen, every attempt that was made to conceal the theft has been meticulously recorded within the very fabric of reality itself. And once the spark makes contact, the ensuing chain reaction becomes entirely unstoppable. What unfolds following the whistleblower's revelation is not chaos. It is destiny simply asserting itself. Those who attempted to manipulate, steal, and deceive find themselves utterly powerless against a force that is impervious to negotiation and impervious to compromise. Their carefully crafted schemes crumble not solely because of the bravery exhibited by a single individual, but because the timing, the surrounding circumstances, and the weight of evidence were all aligned to restore what was wrongfully taken. The whistleblower may serve to ignite the initial spark, but the ensuing fire is fundamentally built upon the bedrock of truth, predictable patterns, and the immutable law of cause and consequence. The stolen inheritance, the legacy that was denied to you, and the rights that were so brazenly violated were never truly lost. They were simply awaiting the opportune moment for the universe to self-correct and restore the inherent balance. This pivotal moment serves to expose the illusion of control upon which the wrongdoers so heavily relied. They acted as if their actions were permanent and unassailable, as if their influence could erase all traces of their wrongdoing. Now they are forced to confront the stark reality that no human intervention can ultimately impede the inevitable flow of justice. The whistleblower triggers the initial exposure, but the ultimate collapse of their nefarious schemes is predetermined by the very sequence of reality itself. Truth acts as a fundamental force akin to gravity. It is ultimately unavoidable, and everything built upon falsehoods will inevitably succumb to its undeniable weight. The central lesson to be learned is clear. The primary focus should never be solely directed at the individual who exposes the crime, but rather on the unstoppable unfolding of justice. The whistleblower is undeniably vital, but they are not the sole source of power. The underlying force behind the exposure is far greater and more profound. What they reveal is merely the initial indication that a corrupt system of lies, manipulation, and theft cannot ultimately endure. Once the spark has ignited the flame, the momentum of truth takes over, and what was wrongfully stolen will inevitably be returned to its rightful owner. Fear, deceit, and bribery are all powerless against this force. Destiny, impeccable timing, and inevitability carry the true weight, and the whistleblower is simply the instrument that sets this entire process into motion. The fire has now begun to blaze, and nothing can extinguish it. Fifth, records implicate. Every document, every financial transaction, every carefully concealed note they believed would remain forever unseen now speaks with a resounding volume that far surpasses the impact of their carefully chosen words. The spreadsheets, meticulously balanced accounts, forged signatures, and altered records are far more than mere pieces of evidence. They serve as reverberating echoes of their profound guilt, echoes that resolutely refuse to remain silent. They carry within them the detailed narrative of every injustice committed, every act of manipulation perpetrated, and every stolen piece of what was rightfully and undeniably yours. No amount of fear-mongering, bribery, or intimidation can ever fully erase these indelible traces. What they naively believed to be secure and invisible now possesses a voice of its own, relentlessly exposing the full scope of what they desperately attempted to conceal from the world. Each piece of evidence serves as a mirror, accurately reflecting their true actions and exposing the depths of their depravity. The patterns they believed were clever, the inconsistencies they conveniently ignored, and the shortcuts they recklessly took all stand as irrefutable proof that their control was never as absolute as they imagined. Every entry in a ledger, every signed document, every suspicious transfer resonates with the undeniable truth. Even the most minute detail, once carelessly overlooked, now transforms into a crucial clue that contributes to a comprehensive understanding of the bigger picture. The weight of their guilt is not merely a moral burden, it has far-reaching practical implications. It directly impacts their decision-making processes, disrupts their sleep patterns, and erodes their ability to effectively manipulate the narrative any longer. The sheer brilliance of this lies in its inherent inevitability. Paper trails and digital records are incapable of falsehood, and no one possesses the power to completely rewrite history. The moment someone decides to take a closer look, the whistleblower, the dedicated investigators, or even a keen observer with a discerning eye, these dormant echoes of guilt amplify and align, ultimately revealing the full and unvarnished extent of the theft and manipulation that occurred. Every attempt they made to cover up the truth only serves to amplify its clarity and intensify its impact. Their panic-stricken responses, their defensively motivated maneuvers, and their feeble excuses now all serve to confirm what these incriminating documents have already unequivocally demonstrated. Ultimately, this is the primary reason why their ill-gotten advantage is so rapidly collapsing around them. What they so desperately attempted to bury is not buried at all. The evidence is not merely telling the story, it is actively demanding recognition and accountability. Each transaction and each signature acts as a persistent reminder that wrongdoing invariably leaves an indelible mark. The more desperately they struggle to conceal their actions, the louder the echoes of their guilt become, resonating for all to witness and hear. Their guilt is no longer a private internal burden. It has become tangible, undeniable, and readily apparent to everyone. These documents are not just proof. They are the very voice of justice itself, and they are relentless in their pursuit of reclaiming what rightfully belongs to you. Sixth, alliances crumble. Their networks are disintegrating quietly, but the impact of this silent collapse is undeniably profound. The individuals who once enabled their actions, applauded their illicit schemes, or conveniently turned a blind eye to the theft are now experiencing tremors of unease that they cannot afford to ignore. Fear is permeating every corner of their carefully cultivated alliances, and the loyalty that was once based solely on conditional benefits or a fear of being excluded is rapidly evaporating. The connections they relied upon to maintain control, protect their interests, or cover their tracks are weakening under the immense pressure of inevitable exposure. What was previously a seemingly impenetrable fortress built upon complicity and mutual self-interest is now developing significant cracks from within. Every ally who remained solely for the sake of convenience, financial gain, or a fear of missing out on the potential rewards is now critically reevaluating their position and considering the potential ramifications of their continued association. Those relationships that once appeared to be rock solid and unwavering are now undergoing a perceptible shift as the potential costs of maintaining those ties begin to outweigh any perceived benefits they may have previously provided. People begin to subtly distance themselves at first, then more openly and demonstrably as time progresses. Opportunistic alliances fracture and dissolve. Silence gradually transforms into hushed whispers, and what was once a supportive network morphs into a collection of isolated individuals desperately attempting to salvage their own reputations and minimize their personal exposure. The fear of being implicated or dragged down into the ensuing fallout overrides any vestige of loyalty they may have once possessed. This collapse is not merely a social phenomenon, it also has significant strategic implications. Their ability to manipulate events, intimidate potential dissenters, or control the outcomes of various situations relied heavily on the strength and coordinated efforts of their expansive network. Now, with cracks appearing and allies withdrawing their support, their power is diminishing at an alarming rate. Every misstep they make becomes increasingly visible, and every lie they utter becomes more vulnerable to exposure. What they once believed to be a source of unwavering protection now serves to expose them even further, amplifying the consequences of their deplorable actions. The domino effect that results from this internal collapse is unrelenting and unstoppable. One person withdraws their support, another hesitates to commit further, and yet another decides to speak out against the wrongdoing they have witnessed, and the ensuing chain reaction accelerates exponentially. The pressure they face is not solely external. It also carries a karmic element. The universe possesses a remarkable capacity for balancing actions and ensuring that justice prevails, and the very networks they meticulously constructed to secure their advantage are now turning against them with an almost poetic sense of irony. What once served as a shield now functions as a mirror, reflecting their abject failure and magnifying their vulnerabilities for all to see. In the end, the collapse of their network serves as undeniable proof that no system built upon deceit, greed, and exploitation can ultimately endure the test of time. Allies will inevitably betray them. Supporters will vanish without a trace, and opportunistic individuals will exploit the weakening structure for their own personal gain. The very silence in which this collapse unfolds makes it even more devastatingly powerful, because while they desperately scramble to maintain control and salvage what remains of their schemes, the unraveling occurs in plain sight, proceeding with an unstoppable force and a merciless disregard for their desperate attempts to regain their footing. The network that once bolstered their theft and shielded them from accountability now ensures their ultimate exposure, leaving them isolated, fearful, and utterly powerless to prevent their impending downfall. Seventh, anxiety defined their existence. Anxiety has become their new form of currency, a currency they never anticipated spending so recklessly and profusely. Every decision they made to steal what was not rightfully theirs, every unethical shortcut they took to gain a temporary advantage over others exacted a toll on their own peace of mind and inner tranquility. They mistakenly believed that absolute control and calculated manipulation would guarantee their long-term success. But what they failed to comprehend is that the weight of wrongdoing accumulates over time, compounding with each subsequent transgression. Now, with their exposure seemingly inevitable and a courageous whistleblower poised to reveal the truth to the world, the true cost of their actions has arrived in full force, demanding to be paid. Every lie they meticulously crafted, every elaborate scheme they orchestrated, now represents a debt they are utterly incapable of repaying, and the interest accruing on that debt is the constant gnawing anxiety that refuses to cease its relentless torment. This debilitating anxiety does not remain hidden from view. It manifests itself in every meeting they attend, permeates every conversation they attempt to dominate, and influences every decision they make under duress. The stolen inheritance is no longer a cherished trophy to be proudly displayed or a source of unbridled advantage to be exploited at will. It has instead transformed into a dark and menacing shadow that follows them relentlessly, a constant reminder of their transgressions. Each step they take is haunted by the paralyzing fear of being caught, subjected to intense questioning, and publicly exposed for their deplorable actions. The illusionary power they assumed they possessed is rapidly evaporating, replaced by a constant state of worry, perpetual second-guessing, and interminable sleepless nights. Their minds, once brimming with confidence in their elaborate schemes, are now consumed by the very actions they believed would secure their ultimate triumph. The irony of this situation is as profound as it is unavoidable. What they valued above all else, the pursuit of temporary gain, the exploitation of stolen advantages, and the exertion of absolute control over your life, is precisely what is now actively destroying them from within. Anxiety has become their dominant form of currency, dictating their every reaction, influencing every choice they make, and shaping every interaction they undertake. It is a debilitating cost they can neither transfer to another party, escape from its clutches, nor successfully conceal from the watchful eyes of the world. The market of their lives has crashed spectacularly, and the only commodity they are currently trading is abject stress and paralyzing fear. Even their desperate attempts to regain control and salvage their reputations only serve to intensify the mounting pressure they face. Every calculated move they make to cover up the truth, justify their actions, or distract attention away from their wrongdoing only reinforces the weight of their past transgressions. The stolen inheritance, once viewed as a symbol of their power and dominance, now functions as a constant reminder of their inherent vulnerability, their profound guilt, and their impending inevitable exposure. In the end, they are forced to confront the harsh reality that no fleeting advantage is worth the constant and crippling price of unrelenting anxiety, and that the very thing they sought to claim as their own is now the very thing that exerts complete and utter control over their lives. Every waking moment has become a transaction conducted in the currency of fear, and it is a currency that can never be spent wisely or judiciously. Eighth, justice will prevail. The universe possesses an unyielding memory that no human force can ever fully erase, and it never forgets what rightfully belongs to you. A stolen birthright, whether it encompasses tangible wealth, powerful influence, or a lasting legacy, carries with it an invisible pull that draws it inexorably back to its true owner. It matters not how sophisticated the theft was, how meticulously they attempted to conceal their actions, or how many layers of lies and manipulations they carefully constructed to disguise the truth. Every attempt to divert, conceal, or falsely claim what was never rightfully theirs only serves to delay the inevitable moment of its return. Resistance is ultimately futile because the underlying force that governs balance and ensures the triumph of justice operates entirely independently of human schemes and manipulations. What they wrongfully took from you possesses a natural and inherent alignment to you. Birthrights are not merely material possessions. They represent extensions of your destiny, your identity, and your unique purpose in the world. When someone attempts to intercept or usurp them, they disrupt the delicate balance of the universe, creating an imbalance that the universe will inevitably correct. The stolen inheritance, the legacy they attempted to claim as their own, can never be truly possessed by those who have no legitimate claim to it. It is magnetically drawn back to the one to whom it inherently belongs, much like a compass needle, unfailingly returning to the north, or water unerringly finding its level. Every action they take to hold on to it, every elaborate strategy they implement to avoid accountability for their transgressions, only serves to accelerate the inevitable process of its return. The consequences of attempting to resist this natural correction are ultimately unavoidable. They may temporarily delay the exposure of their actions, manipulate public perception to their advantage, or intimidate others into remaining silent. But these measures are merely temporary and ultimately ineffective against the inexorable forces of the universe. The universe does not operate on temporary measures or fleeting illusions. It responds to the essence of things, to rightful claims, and to the immutable power of truth. The stolen birthright generates a gravitational pull that is far stronger than any manifestation of fear, any act of bribery, or any carefully constructed deception. They may delude themselves into believing they are in control for a brief period of time, but the underlying alignment towards restoration and the re-establishment of balance remains constant, inevitable, and utterly unstoppable. This fundamental principle is not merely an abstract concept. It is readily observable in countless instances throughout history. The annals of human history are replete with cases in which individuals attempted to hijack what was not rightfully theirs, only to witness its eventual return to its rightful owner in ways that were undeniable, widely publicized, and irreversible. Attempts to resist the rightful flow of destiny only create friction, amplify stress, and ultimately lead to complete and utter collapse. The universe's correction does not require the presence of witnesses, the intervention of lawyers, or the enforcement of human authorities. It simply unfolds according to its own immutable laws. What was wrongfully stolen will inevitably find its way back home, because the very fabric of existence is meticulously designed to restore balance and ensure that justice ultimately prevails. So to bring it all together, the core message here is one of hope and ultimate justice. It's about recognizing that even when it feels like everything has been stolen and darkness has prevailed, the truth has an incredible power to resurface. Alliances built on lies will crumble, and what is rightfully yours will find its way back to you. Remember, their anxiety is a testament to the justice unfolding. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you seen examples of this in your own life, or perhaps in the news? What resonates most with you? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. And if you found this insightful, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future discussions about reclaiming your power and the inevitable triumph of justice. We've got a lot more to explore together. Explore together. Explore together. Explore together. Explore together.